So we're here today to read the very first chapter of my latest book, White Witch, Dark Moon. And as always, we are ghetto fabulous, where I'm going to be reading you off the created PDF while it's still getting ready to be in publication. So it's going to be released on January 31st, just to wrap up the month in a good way. Now, a little bit about this book. This book is a choose your own adventure book, but for grown-ups. So in it, you'll find graphic violence, graphic sex, suicide, murder, all sorts of different things. And the concept is we have two opposing forces. We have the White Witch of the Separatists and the Dark Moon of the Dominion. So enemies, enemies, enemies. The question is, can you, with the paths you choose, bring them from enemies to lovers? Or will your choices end up destroying them both? So, as I say, I am not a voice actor. I will never be a voice actor, but I'm going to try my best to read you the very first chapter and let you see the very first choice you get to make. Now, there are 17 possible endings in this book, and the goal is the more chapters you read, the more you'll come to understand the characters and their situation and their relationship to each other. So you're not supposed to read it just once. I'd love it if you got all 17 endings, because only then will you see all of the different things that can happen to these two characters. Okay? So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Chapter 1. In a ruby red canyon littered with bodies, only two figures still stand on the battlefield. The campaign is over, both sides decimated, dragging out the forever stalemate that refuses to let the land go. Neither side gains anything. Neither side loses, though tell that to the dead warriors that pile up in places like these. Their names are forgotten, bodies buried one on top of the other, their lives expendable and meaningless, wasted in zero-sum skirmishes. Families have learned to give up hope the moment their heroes pass the threshold into the war machine, for no one ever returns. If they live, it's only to fight another day, not to plunge back into the open arms of someone who once adored them, perhaps cradled them, perhaps wedded or bedded them. It didn't matter. Once they were gone, they were gone. This is a time of no hope, only outrage and revenge. It casts a haze of madness on the eyes of the wise, ensuring the way forward remains a simple, never-ending loop of kill or be killed. There is no peace. There is no rational thought. There is just us and them, fingers pointing from every side. Across piles of broken hands and feet and skulls, a cloud of metal-scented smoke hangs in the air as the only two creatures still alive circle each other with bared teeth. The sun is fading and the shadows grow long, yet they still see each other clearly, knowing one another far too well. Beyond faces and expressions, they've memorized each other's gaits and simple gestures, the lilt of every vocal tone, even the patterned rise and fall of their lungs as they breathe. Reyanne, the White Witch of the Separatists, and her nemesis Zanthrand, Dark Wizard of the Dominion, have been far too in tune with each other since Reyanne performed the soul-binding spell years ago. She'd read many ancient texts describing the ritual, how to pray and bless and sanctify. It was supposed to draw his soul to her, allowing her to steal his darkness and convert him to the ways of the light. But she failed. From miles and miles away, she had wrought a different kind of bond, one she didn't mean to forge and now doesn't know how to break. Dusk claims the sky as the White Mage's staff ricochets sideways, her enemy's black magic penetrating her rune-ringed ward of protection as if it were nothing. He knew it was coming, and knew exactly how to counter her spell, a clairvoyance his side of the war worships him for, and sadly, a prescience for which the White Witch is absolutely responsible. Knowing her folly, Reyanne glowers a frown that could not drag deeper if it tried. At least their connection goes both ways. "I hate feeling you worming around in my head," Zanthrand growls, his voice a low baritone that oozes disgust. His haughty expression almost suits him, a scowl pulling at his dusky pink lips as his large, dark eyes lock on hers. His broad shoulders and large hands tell of his strength even as the rest of him is hidden beneath the black trappings of war. To witness him is to witness a god in its chiseled perfection, even if all you get is a glimpse before he closes your eyes forever. His jaw is tight with anticipation as he stares Reyanne down, too close for comfort and ready to strike again. Her magical stores depleted, she is flagging, whereas he looks like he could continue for eons. She knows better. Through their unwanted connection, she can tell he's just as exhausted as she is, perhaps more so. He just hides it better. A tricky one, that Zanthrand. The feeling is mutual, Reyanne says, going for broke and pushing through one last spell from her arsenal. Raising her staff in an upward arc and spinning it hand over hand above her, she causes a whirlwind so strong it pushes him backwards, his feet sliding over stone. His arms cross defensively as he chants a counterspell, his full lips moving as Reyanne's enchanted wind takes on a dangerous edge, slicing instead of repelling. Long ebony hair whipping behind him, Zanthrand grits his teeth as the screaming gale tears swaths off his heavy garb, nicking and embedding knives of air into his skin before lashing a deep, painful slit down his pale face. With one last grunt of his dark magic, Reyanne's wind reverses on her in a bladed spike. Once she dodges only just in time to avoid being run through, taking a slash to her side instead. Her mouth opens wide as she cries out. The inward curve between the jut of her hip and the line of her ribs lights on fire as her nerves howl. Going to her knees, blood spatters in pitter-pats of red rain, seeping into the stained canyon floor and mixing with the blood of her allies. Her misting gaze lands on a fallen comrade beside her. His eyes show only white, and his face is shaped wrong, concave in all the wrong places. She has failed him, failed to turn the tide of the war, failed to seal the enemy away, failed to see beyond the dawn. Looking at the sea of dead behind her, she swoons, head swimming, until she feels a familiar tingle, like ice dragging over her scalp in long, wet, dripping lines. Zanthrand's thoughts. Amorphous shapes of sound whisper inside her, just as she knows her mind projects to him. She's not sure whether it's because of the invasion of privacy, the intimacy, or the disadvantage it presents, but their connection in this moment burns her throat with bile and floods her heart with rage. He's worse off than she is. Sprawled, his hands press uncomfortably against the rubble of the battle-littered ground while he pants like a wounded dog. His nightshade wizard's robes are slashed open in wide triangles, showing the pallor of his skin and the crimson of his endless wounds. Rivulets of blood run down his face, forehead to jaw, flooding one eye and rendering it terrifying as it pins her down with its glistening, likely blind, stare. He can't attack her like this. Finally, after years, she has him at a disadvantage. The best thing to do with a rabid beast is to put it out of its misery, and now that he can't fight back. Struggling to her feet, Reyanne groans as her wrappings of ivory cotton darken red with her pain. Her hair cascades, drawing like a tawny curtain over her green eyes and leaving her lithe body vulnerable as she stabs her staff at the ground, using the magical artifact to help pry herself from the cold stone. She is dangerously, perilously close to fainting. But so is he. She can feel it. Suddenly, with a dark chuckle, the look on his face turns to one of resignation. He's tired. Tired of this fight, tired of her, tired of their connection. "If you're going to kill me," he says, "hurry up and do it. Otherwise, I will hunt you to the ends of the earth. This is nothing compared to what I'll do to you, White Witch. I'll make it hurt. I don't mind. I know exactly how, and it has nothing to do with magic." His glare burns and she trembles, not only from fear, and not only from her own pain, but from his pain too. That's part of it all, how their connection works. Their emotions, thoughts, sensations are aligned, something they cannot seem to escape. She too needs this to be over. She needs to put her worst mistake to rest. But, knowing his pain, feeling it as she does, she can't help but wonder, if she ends him now, what happens to her? Will she feel it? Will she live? Will she die? What is she going to do? Dear reader, the decision is yours. If Reyanne chooses to fight, turn to page 9. If Reyanne chooses to escape, turn to page 98. Good luck to our main characters, and to you, dear reader. Let's see how this story ends. Beware, some of your choices may lead to short, unsatisfying conclusions. Others will take you on a journey that will make your heart soar, though it may also rip it in two. Some will titillate your senses, others will make you yearn for what comes next and leave you longing. The choices are up to you, and I pray you choose right. If not, read again and again. Find the happy endings you so desperately seek. One exists regardless of which path you choose right here, right now. It's the next choices that will open the way to success or failure. It's the next choices that will save or doom you. Make your choice, dear reader. Open the door to the future. It's all up to you. So that's chapter 1. As you can see, you have 2 choices, left or right. If you go down one, you're going to go down the White Witch's path and see things from her perspective. If you go down the other, you'll go through Zanthrand's point of view and see what he has to offer. Either way, I know you're going to enjoy your journey. And there'll be illustrations along the way. Every time you reach a happy ending, you'll see a new illustration done by me. The illustration on the front cover is also mine as well. So here's to a new book, here's to a new reading, and have a great rest of your day. Bye!